So if you've been following me for maybe a couple years now, you might remember that I used to demo a tool called Instagram Dash Scraper. And that was a nice way to sort of scrape Instagram accounts and be able to get and download a bunch of image data, which was, honestly pretty great for building data sets. If you have tried to use that tool now, first off, I hope you haven't, because using that tool now more or less will almost surely get your account banned on Instagram. Um, Instagram clearly doesn't want people scraping their data. I understand why. Regardless, it makes it pretty annoying for us to be able to build data sets that way. So, what I'm going to demo this time is like sort of a hacky in between tool that allows us to do this without getting our account banned. Um, I'm sharing this with my Patreon and YouTube members because I think it's still a cool way to actually be able to access Instagram data. But I'm also not sharing it publicly because the last thing I want to happen here is like Instagram developers finding a way to ban accounts via this way, or like tracking IP addresses or whatever. So, be a little careful about who you share this with. Obviously, if you have friends and like they're trying to scrape Instagram, like feel free to share this video with them. But like, let's not post this all over the world, because quicker it gets found, the more likely they are to shut down this method. And this method should probably work regardless, and it might even work in like an incognito browser. But anyway, I'll just show it to you and hope it works for you. I will say this is not as easy as an Instagram scraper, and we'll look at sort of like kind of the annoyance of it. But it will generally work with a lot of tools, and honestly, it'll almost work with pretty much any web page as well, with some caveats. But anyway, I'll sort of show you how it works first, and then I'll show you how to be able to actually download those images. So it's sort of a two-step process. One is you do need to go to an actual live web page, and that web page has to have images on it. So in the case of Instagram, we'll, for lack of getting myself in trouble, like we're just going to scrape my Instagram account. So the thing to know here is, you'll just want to refresh the page, make sure you're on the page and that there are images loaded. Next, you do need to be able to grab the the developer pane within Chrome. I'm using Chrome. You can use Firefox. You can use Safari. Anything. Chrome just seems to be my default. If you don't know how to get the developer tools, you can probably Google it. I think it's just a Chrome settings, or set it up. But once you have it, you should be able to go and right-click on any web page and go to Inspect. And on the right hand side here, you should be able to see elements, computed sort of like styles, and then down here what we're actually going to be using is the console. And you can move this around. It might by default be below your page. It might be on the right hand side. I know you can move this around a little bit as needed. This is just my general default way to do this, so I can look at it side by side. So we're going to use the console down here. What we're going to want to do is we're actually going to write a little bit of JavaScript. And what that JavaScript is going to do is it's going to go through every image in our grid, or every image that's loaded in our grid, because this is where it gets going to get tricky. And it's going to grab every image tag, and it's going to copy the path from that image tag, and it's going to open it up in a new window, and we'll be able to copy and paste all of that content into a new file. So first off, the JavaScript you need to grab from will be listed here at this secret gist. So again, I'll post this in the video notes as well, so people can grab it. So you just want this piece of code from here down to here. So all 25 lines of this code. And all you're going to do is you're going to take that and you're going to come over here into the console and you're going to paste it in. And then you're going to hit return, and that's going to run it. And what you'll see happens immediately is it opens a new tab. And in that tab will be all of our URLs. Now you'll see here on my Instagram account, I have 3,129 posts. This grabbed probably, if I had to remember, I think it grabs 33. Let's just see. Yes, it grabs 33 images. So what are those 33 images? So Instagram, in a way to make sure the page loads very, very quickly, does not load every single image in your post. It loads, I believe, the first 33, which would be 11 rows of these images. So as you scroll down, you'll see it starts to reload new images. And then this is sort of the trick that we need to go through, and this is where it gets a little manual in a kind of annoying way, but it will work for us. So once I've scrolled down, okay, so first off, actually, before I jump too far ahead, we need to copy all of the data in this path. So we're just going to go into this browser tab, and we're just going to go Command A, which copies everything, Command C, and then what we need to do is we're going to come to TextEdit, and let's just make a new text file here. and we'll paste that in. And we want to make sure that we format our file as plain text. So let's go make plain text. I'll say convert, and you'll say yes. So now that we have those first 33 images, we actually want to go in and grab more. And the way to do that is if we refresh the page, this will again display just the first 33 images. But then if we scroll down, we'll see new images. And this is where it's kind of like tricky. I'm sure I could go through and actually figure out what's going on here. And there's probably even a way to automate this. If you're really into web, you probably know that there's ways to do like, scrolling and that sort of thing. I'm doing it kind of like half-assed here and just sort of quick copy and paste. But now we can run this exact command again, and what it's going to pull in is going to pull in different images that have already been preloaded into the Instagram page. So simplest way to do that is we don't need to copy and paste again. We just press up. That's going to give us all of this path again, and we hit return. And that's going to open up yet another file for us. So we'll go Command-All, Command-C, and then we'll paste this in here. So we can close out these. We'll scroll down a little bit more. And we'll run this again. We'll go. And I could do this over and over and over again and continue to save this to a file. Very likely what we're going to get, is we're going to miss some images. We're not going to get everything in this stack unless we're really, really patient and really deliberate in the way that we grab stuff. But it will get most of the images we want. And you'll also see here that you're also getting these like Chrome extension files. We don't really need to worry about that. For whatever reason, I've got some Chrome extensions running that also embed images and other little files into the HTML page. We also don't need to worry about if we're getting duplicate files. If you've ever tried to run wget, you know that there's it's going to create duplicates. We'll look in just a second on how to make sure that doesn't happen. So we can just go ahead and do this for, you can do this as long as you want to until you hit the very end of my Instagram account. Please don't do that. You'll see some of the most embarrassing photos ever, I'm sure, using really old school Instagram filters. But we'll just do this for maybe a couple more steps. Okay, so now I have a nice, pretty long file here. It's probably something like 100 images, maybe a little bit more, give or take. So the next thing I want to do is I just want to save this file. And that is not the way to save because I still don't remember how to save stuff in Mac. So save, and let's just call it DVS method, which is my Instagram account, .txt. So now I have a .txt file. So next thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and go into my Finder and let's just make a folder. So make a folder we'll call DVS method. And we'll copy that path by just hitting Command-C. And then we're going to go to our terminal. And what we're going to do is we are going to paste this in. So we'll do CD to the path. And then what we want to do is we want to type in over here. I've got my little notes here. So we want to do wget-I. And then we want to find the path to our file. So let's see. Where did that get saved to? Desktop? Yep. So we'll copy the path to our txt file. We'll paste that into wget. And the last thing before we run this command is we want to do -N. And what -N will do is it'll check to see if we've either previously downloaded this image or if the image has been updated. So what this will essentially do is it'll overwrite any previous images with the same name. And that's really helpful to make sure that we don't duplicate our effort. So in this case, this is basically going to create no duplicates. So you might, in your text file, have duplicate images because we weren't really precise in the way we were reloading various grid sections, that sort of thing. So very likely have duplicate images, and what you want to do is basically skip that step. So this command will allow us to do that. So at this point, we now have this whole thing built up, and we can just go ahead and run this script. You'll see here it's just running, and it's just literally just downloading these images. And if I go over to this folder in downloads and open this, you'll see I have all my images. Now, you will also notice these images have a whole bunch of cruft on them, right? Where the JPG name actually is, if we just go Command-I, is not in the most ideal place. This is because all the stuff that is all the little like query string that is after that .jpg file extension is required. If you remove that, Instagram won't let you download the file. So you actually need to keep that. The nice thing about this is that my dataset tools library, if you run these images through any of those steps, will actually just convert this whole thing into a new string, and you will be able to preview them in a nicer way. So they'll look a little bit better. They'll actually get the little thumbnail image icons and that sort of thing. But if you double click on this, it'll still open. Maybe if you tell it what to open it with. Let's see. Do I have preview open? So if I drag this into preview, it should open still. It does. But here again, this is a case of where you might want to use dataset tools to, resize everything, crop everything, do all that sort of work. And then it'll reappend the extension in the right place, and it'll sort of fix everything. So in that case, you might just want to use those tools. And I have another tutorial on how to do that I'll post in the link as well for the YouTube video, so you can go ahead and check that out. But this is a nice way. This got us 234 images, and that didn't take too long. It took like, it's not like Instagram Scraper where it's pretty much like immediate, and it downloads a ton of images for you. There's a little bit more manual, but it does work. And you can kind of see here, got some good images. You'll still want to run dataset tools on this to remove any tiny little images. Like I can tell already, this one's got to be pretty small because it's 6K, 5K, 8K. So these are probably pretty small images. But again, it works, and getting access to Instagram data is a fairly good technique to be able to access images and that sort of thing. So that's a really quick little video tip. I hope folks find this helpful and useful, and you're able to generate data sets again using Instagram. As always, caveat with ethics, don't scrape people's entire data sets and turn their work into a StyleGAN model. I always recommend scrape a couple people couple of different artists' accounts and combine them, or scrape hashtags, or do something where it's not just one artist, because that's a little tricky ethically. Scraping Instagram in general is kind of tricky ethically, but I could make a better argument for combining a bunch of different artists together that sort of have a similar style as doing something a little bit different or a little bit more collage-like. So try not to abuse this too much. It does also require that these be public accounts, so I guess if you're logged in, you could scrape a private account. I don't know how well that works, but there's definitely different caveats with this. But it does work with hashtags, so that's also a really good tool. And honestly, I find scraping hashtags to be really helpful. As always, there's going to be a lot of cleanup to do with these tools because you're not necessarily sure what you're getting, right? You might get some selfies, you might get some poster images, you might get art images, those sort of things. So, but this does get us back to a place where we can scrape Instagram without getting our accounts banned, which is always nice. So I hope you found this helpful. If you're a JavaScript developer and you want to add in a bunch of other cool tools to make this a little bit more automated, please let me know. I'm happy to share code or work on stuff together. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of data sets you get to make with this. So again, thanks for being a backer of the Patreon or the YouTube account. I really appreciate it. And I hope you find this helpful. Thanks.